Welcome to Real Talk episode 23. I am Brian Rosen. We are here at London Real Studios and we're live for the next 30 minutes answering your questions from the interweb. I got Facebook Live rocking on here. I got a fraternity brother from MIT who just asked me a question, and I've got all your questions. Of course, Academy members get priority. Then we go to Instagram, and then we go to the Facebook Livers. Just kidding. We'll get to you guys for sure. But this week, I figured I would talk about parenting, not because I'm an expert, but because I'm about to become a parent really for the second time, and I'll talk more about this in a bit. On the 30th of May, my son enters this world, and I will be 45 years old in about 2 weeks, and now he's going to be in my life, and it's crazy. And if you had asked me in my 20s whether this would have ever happened, or in my 30s, or even my early 40s, I would have said never. I'm a bachelor through and through. I'm never going to have a family, and now I am. And it's really changed my perspective on a lot of things. And I'm sure I got a whole nother world of change happening right now. And if I have one more parent tell me how much my life is going to change or how little sleep I'm going to get, I'm going to pull a bullet in their head. I'm tired of it. It's like when I used to research ayahuasca. Like, I didn't want to watch another video about ayahuasca. It was time to just do it. So for me, I think it's time to just do it. I'm going to welcome this young man into the world, and we're just going to deal with it the way we can. We're ready for him. We got the crib, literally the crib, not in the 70s slang sense of the word, but the crib is ready for him. I got my main girl, Mariana. She's ready too, and she is a trooper. I'm sure she can parent 3 kids on her own because that's, she just takes care of business. So she's ready. Gabby, my stepdaughter, is ready, or as ready as she's ever going to be here at 12 years old for him. And that's it. He's coming. And as I told Gabby about 6 months ago, he's coming whether we like it or not. So it's time to get ready. So that's the plan. So today I'll be talking about children, kids, parenting. I've had a weird journey myself with this whole thing. And please submit your questions now. You can go to Facebook Live on my personal profile. That link has also been posted in the Academy private Facebook group and on our London Real page in case you want to ask me questions. I got Lisa May in the house. I got my good buddy Hank Sawtelle that I went to MIT with, who's in the house. Awesome to have you here, Hank. He's asking me questions about my dad. I got Pat here, all sorts of people. So come check us out there. And of course, you can ask us questions during this episode on Twitter. Danny's going to feed them in here. So let's talk about becoming a father. Wow. What a journey. The crazy thing about this whole piece of being a father is that, quite frankly, I don't think it would have happened without you guys and without London Real. I don't think I would have ever gotten to a space where I would have been ready to take on these responsibilities because, quite honestly, and if you haven't noticed, before London Real started, and some say it still is that way, I was a very self-centered person. And it was all about me, which meant the Benjamins, which meant my own accomplishments, and I was living the world, I think, as me, as they say. And it was about me, okay? And that's the way I grew up, and that's what I was thinking. And that can be great, and you can accomplish many things that way, and I respect that point of view. I think there's a place for it in your life. And even at certain points in your life, you have to act in your own self-interest. And if you don't take care of yourself, it's very hard to contribute to other people. And sometimes you meet someone and you're like, man, I really wish you spent more time on you, because then you could be of use to us as a society. But I was all about the me. And while it can be very rewarding, at the end of the day, it's a really hollow existence. And no one ever taught me this. When I was watching movies when I was a kid, or the American way of life, no one ever taught me that the real value you get is from contributing to the whole and helping others and building this whole big macroorganism called the human species. And it took me a while to get that. I'm still trying to figure that out. But I figured that out through really broadcasting, through producing London Real, meeting incredible people, talking to incredible people, learning from incredible people, and also through my psychedelic experiences with ayahuasca, et cetera, and just the whole thing. And quite honestly, it brought me to a space where I moved in with Mariana and her daughter, who at the time was like 8 or 9. And I pretty much adopted this crazy young girl. And we moved in together. And I think that the thing that really hit me was I was watching her and seeing where she went to school. And it just got me really angry. I was just like, you know what? It's just time to step things up. And I thought the quality of her life could be better with me in it. So we made the big plunge and we moved in together, and it was hard and crazy at first, but now I can't imagine a life not living with Gabby, my 12-year-old daughter. She's incredible. I love her very much, although she drives me crazy as well. But I do love her. And Mariana. It's been incredible. It's been just a big development for me as a person. Before that, I used to literally be in this studio and I would do London Reel all day long and sleep and wake up and do it again and do it again. And it was just a really hollow existence. And before that, I was just doing that in banking. So that was part of the genesis. Moved in, was really parenting Gabby. Before that, I actually volunteered for a year here in the UK to be a volunteer for Chance UK, where I mentored this 9 to turning to 10-year-old boy with behavioral difficulties, and I met him every week for like 4 or 6 hours. And that was a big commitment, but I think that was me starting to accept the fact that I needed to look after other humans in this world, maybe small humans, and it was like my first nurturing instinct now that I look back on it. And that was a big special time for me, and there's a video out there somewhere of my year I spent with Shad, who was the young gentleman probably now that I spent the time with. I don't have contact with him afterwards. That's the way the program works, and more on that later. That's just the way they work. I'm a big fan of Chance UK. If you're in the UK and you want to do something like that, please do. And then I think that led me to just know how to talk to children, and then I was blessed to meet Gabby. And it was funny because when I first had my first date with Mariana, I was out with her, and I was telling her this crazy story about my nephew. And my brother had just had his first son, and he lives in Switzerland, and he brought his nephew to London. And we were out at this nice restaurant, and my nephew was crawling on the floor in between other people's tables. And for a single guy, I was like, this is ridiculous. And I was telling her this crazy story about how my nephew was crawling on the floor, and interrupting people's dinners. And I looked at her in the eye, and I was like, oh, you have a child. And she was just like all freaked out. And a lot of people would look at a single mother as like a liability. But for me, I was just like, okay, well, let's just see what happens. And Mariana turned out to be wonderful. And Gabby was just a real gift. She really was a gift to me. And she helped me grow up in a big way. So I'm expecting more of the same with this young lad coming soon, Brian Jr. He's probably going to make me grow up even more. So that's the plan. He's here in 27 days or maybe sooner. Mariana seems to think he's coming sooner. So it's going to be fascinating to see what happens with London Reel, workload, all that stuff. We stay pretty busy around here. A lot of my weekends are spent teaching private courses, on live calls, that kind of thing. So we'll see how that continues, and some of your questions are about that. So I'll go to the first question, which is from Ian Simpson. And Ian was here this week. And Ian is the founder of Tokyo Reel. And he was here doing an incredible job there, episode 9 there, filming amazing things. And he came in the studio, took pictures with us, and he said, Brian, your first baby was London Reel, but soon your real baby will be born. Do you think a new work-life balance will be required? If so, how well do you think you can adjust to that? Well, Ian, like I said, if I have one more parent that's going to tell me to stock up on my sleep, I'm going to slap them in the head, okay? So that's how I feel about that. But yeah, of course things are going to change. I have no idea. I really don't have an idea. So in that sense, it's probably a bit like the psychedelic world. I'm going to be learning at a rate I'm not accustomed to, as they say, when you take a heavy dose of psilocybin. So, but I'm welcoming it. I'm actually not stressed about it. I'm cool. I've got an amazing partner. We're ready as we're going to be. But yeah, there's going to have to be adjustments. There's going to have to be changes. So I'm ready for those, or I think I'm going to be ready. We're as prepared as we can be. I guess this has been done a few times before me for a few hundred thousands of years, so I'm guessing I'm equipped with the right tools, but we'll see how it goes. I'm sure it'll be a hard time. As far as the balance, I guess I'm going to just have to be more available and more aware at home and be able to spend more time. But at the same time, I can't imagine my life without London Reel and everything we do here, because I love it. I love the people we help. I love the courses. I love the guests. I love the whole team here. So, and Mariana knows that about me, so we're going to find some balance. Hopefully I won't be losing too much sleep, but I'm sure I will be. I really like my sleep. I function well on my sleep. So we'll figure it out. And plus, this young boy will be dictating my time to me. So yeah, looking forward to it. But yeah, of course, it's going to require some adjustments. So not sure, but we'll see what happens from there. I want to go to Facebook Live and ask a question from here. We got Lisa May. She says, how is mom? Lisa said she was pretty ready to have that baby a month. Is she hanging in there? Mariana is large. right now. She wore this silver top the other day, and she said, "Do I look like a disco ball?" And I said, "Yes, you do." So I've been dealing with a pregnant woman, which really isn't that bad, as far as there's a little bit more of an emotional spectrum, but I deal with crazy people all day, every day. So we're used to emotional spectrum, so it's cool. She is handling it like a trooper. It must be very hard and also a beautiful thing to have your body invaded by another organism. And I try to reframe everything around the household, like, think about the 2 years we tried to get pregnant and we couldn't. I mean, that was really hard. And now you have this, some women would kill to be pregnant. So, of course, I'm reframing, which is a horrible thing for a guy to do when you're not pregnant, but that's what I do. Guys try to logically fix things when we should be listening to their emotions. I know, I'm working on that. But she's doing great. She's moving around. She's still training. She's not sleeping. She's still doing everything she can. She's getting tired walking upstairs, but otherwise, I'd say she's rolling with it. She thinks he's coming early. I don't know if that's true, but we're pretty much ready. Hopefully, he's not coming right now because I won't end this episode just to show up there. But I think it's like 24 hours to actually get him birthed. So I'm preparing for that whole process. But apparently, I have to be very nice, and I have to ask questions that are yes and no, and I have to get ready to be hit by her because apparently the woman goes to this kind of primal place. So I'm getting ready. Mariana's been amazing. I would say, from my perspective, I wouldn't want to be around a pregnant woman all my life. And I'll just leave it at that. Also, I know she's watching, so all of my answers are very political. So let's keep that in mind. Just going right to the tape here. We're going to Facebook Live again. Let me see. We got Ben Faulkner. We got Chris Rose. He's saying the first 9 months were brutal because of the lack of sleep. I keep hearing all the lack of the sleep stuff. I get it. Other people are saying congratulations. Thank you so much. The support's been great. We dropped the fact that we were pregnant on a video like 5 months ago that Luis made. It was a really subtle way. Of course, I used the birth of my son as a media event. What more would you expect from me? So we're doing that, and we'll see if he's on camera. But yeah, it's been a crazy journey. Again, we'd been planning on this for a couple of years. I always tell this story. It was New Year's Eve. I think it was 2009. I had this like duplex loft in Shoreditch, and I was like the single banker guy, and I was dating Mariana, and we had a New Year's, and she made a wish. And I was like, "What did you wish for?" And she's like, "No, I can't tell you because it'll make it not true." And I was like, "Just tell me the damn wish." And she said, 2 boys and a girl. And I was just like, okay, like, did you just see 2 boys and a girl? I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, no, 2 boys and a girl with you. And I was like, are you out of your mind? I looked at her like she had 8 heads. I was like, that is so far not happening that, you obviously have mental problems. So I never thought this was coming, but like any good woman, they chip away at you. They chip away at you when you're at your weakest points. So she did that very well. And she pitched me. She's a KPI because she pitches, publishes, increases her profile, works on products and partnerships. So she pitched me and she got it. So always be pitching. That's what we teach in week 1 of the Business Accelerator program. All right, cool. Going to more questions. Jacob Lindstrom. Funny enough, a graduate of our Business Accelerator program. Love Jacob, runs an amazing yoga business out of Sweden. He's got a beautiful family himself. He makes beautiful videos. His yoga is incredible. Huge fan of Jacob, a really incredible guy. He was at our summit meeting. I had him on stage. Jacob said, Brian, we had our first son when I was 23 and our second a few years later. Brian, what do you believe is good with waiting a bit with having children, and what do you think can be good about having them early? First of all, Jacob, I like how you said waiting a bit, which is a nice way of saying I waited 20 years after you did. And yes, I'm no spring chicken. I'm 45, although I feel like I'm 25. I don't look like it, but I feel good. I feel great. For me, it just didn't cross my mind. I remember I had a conversation with my dad when I was 40, and I'm like, Dad, I would never buy a dog or a cat. It's too much commitment. And he laughed at me over the phone like my dad does to me a lot. So again, it just wasn't in my realm of possibilities. I was never one of those guys that thought I'm going to raise a family or any of that stuff. So it was just not something that was on my radar. And but now I think it's a beautiful thing, and I think I'm ready, and I feel really great about this whole experience. And I'm glad I waited personally, because I think if I had tried to do this when I was 30, I could barely keep myself alive at 30. Quite literally, if you've seen my first episode with Sully Breaks, could quite literally barely keep myself alive. So now I feel like I can at least look after someone else. But on the flip side, it would have probably caused me to grow up a lot faster and take some responsibility. And my mom always said, she said this before I had kids, she said, when you have kids is when you finally grow up. Amen, Betty Rose, who I'll be talking to soon. So there you go. And of course, it makes you look at your parents in a different way. As I try to parent Gabby, I look at her and I just realize that she puts me through all of this hell that I put my stepmother through, just being completely unreasonable, and my own mother being a horrible 10-year-old that just like slams doors. When she does it, I try to empathize with her a little bit, and then I take away her iPad. So there you go. All right, going back to Facebook Live. If there's any questions you have here, this is Real Talk. I answer your questions live. I'm loving the Facebook Live vibe. Mariana is on the love of my life. Mariana is on Facebook Live, and she said she's not that big. Yes, honey, it's correct. You're not that big. That's all good. But no, she's handling it like a trooper. She's moving around great. We have the plan. And, honestly, I haven't been that stressed about it. I've been really trusting in the tribe that we have around us as other humans, and I just feel good that she's being looked after wherever she goes, and everyone's really nice to her. So I feel very fortunate to live in London, where I just feel like she's looked after in some way. So thank you to the tribe of humans out there that is making sure she's okay. And yeah, to be honest, it hasn't hit me yet. I see this big thing in her belly. When I can feel him move, it feels really weird, but I'm not singing to him or reading to him, and it's just, for me, I think there's a big disconnect, the fact that he's coming out soon. But I'm just acknowledging that I'm disconnected, and I'm just going to roll with it, and there you go. Someone asked about a name. We have a list of about 20 different names. Julian suggested that we do a Name the Baby on Twitter. So go ahead and hit us up on Twitter at LondonRealTV with your suggestion of baby names. And anyone who pays the right price will get to name my child. No, I'm just joking. But we haven't named him. I'm coming up with some crazy names. I personally kind of like the cool kid name. Actually, my guest, Matt Willis, the lead singer of Busted, who actually just invited me to come see him at the O2 on the 27th, so I'll be there. Super excited for those guys. He named his son Ace. And, he's a pop star, a musician. He's a cool guy, so he gives his kids cool names. The Beckhams named their son Brooklyn. So I kind of want my son to have a cool name, but, not too cool, but kind of cool. When I hear names like Lewis and John and Hank, no offense, Hank, I'm like, that's a little boring. Or Brian, or Daniel, or Julian. These are all members of our team. I find those boring names. So I want to give them something cool, but not something crazy like Bubba or anything like that. So we're still working on names. If you have any suggestions, I really do welcome them, but that would be creepy if you name my baby. So, all right, we're going back to the tapes here. And if you want to talk to Mariana, you can chat with her on Facebook Live right now and go straight to the source. Let's get to a couple more questions here. Someone just asked about the name. I think I just pretty much explained that. Very deep question here from Instagram. Joags says, how do you feel raising a child differs today compared to when your parents raised you? This is a great question. I see technology now, and Gabby has an iPad at school, like almost in place of books, and all of her lessons come on the iPad, et cetera, et cetera. And they're like, this is the new way of learning. Get used to it, And it's easy to point the finger that kids these days are so insular, and they're not like we used to be. But I remember craving the television. I couldn't wait to get my hands on that thing. And if you look back, there's old pictures of people being on the subway in New York in the 1950s, and they're all sitting there reading a newspaper and not talking to each other. So I don't think there's really a big difference between now and between when I grew up. I do think you have to be really careful with devices, because I think they trigger brain reactions like opiates do. And I think you have to be really careful about giving a child an electronic device, because there's so much they can do with it now, as opposed to back in the day. I would get bored playing with my Legos, or the TV station would turn off, or my mom would get me off the TV. I think we do have to be careful raising our kids with these devices. And it was brought up by Simon Sinek, whose episode's coming out soon on London Real, and he thinks we really have a potential crisis with all of these addictions happening to these devices. I think that's something to definitely think about with kids, and I like to limit Gabby's use of these devices, although I usually fail in doing so. But otherwise, no, I think it's all the same. I think kids, they know when you spend time with them, and when you do that, then you have the right to potentially affect their lives through parenting. And that is optional, I think. But when you don't spend time with them, I think it's almost a direct correlation. It's almost like clocking in the hours. And when you haven't spent time with them that week, then they don't want to hear anything you've had to say. And I think they're one of the greatest barometers for whether you're parenting correctly. It's probably because you're not spending time. And I usually find this with Gabby and actually all the people in your life with relationships. And so that's something I got to watch a lot because I spend a lot of time here. So I think for parenting, no, I don't think anything has changed. I think it's all back to the basics and to doing the quality things with your children and establishing relationships with them and just being there and being present. But at the same time, also, there's this whole concept that it takes a village. One of my greatest friends, one of my martial arts sensei said, Brian, children need relationships with other adults. And I think that's really important. That means grandparents, aunts, teachers, martial arts instructors. Takes that whole village, and I really want my children to have relationships with other adults so they can learn from them, because I think with the parents, there's always a barrier. There's only so much you can learn from them. And I had amazing grandparents growing up, like powerful grandfathers, grandmothers, strong women, hardworking people, farmers, cattle ranchers, out in the middle of nowhere, getting on with their business. Just amazing peer groups that I was raised with that really taught me a lot. So I hope to do the same for them. Although I don't know how I'm going to do that because all my family's all over the world now. So yeah, I'm struggling with this, to be continued. So to be continued on that one. All right, we're going back to Facebook Live. We'll do a few more questions. By the way, Matt Willis is en route to the hospital right now to have his third child. I think it's a son. So we're going to have kids right around the same time. So that's pretty crazy. So all right, cool. I see some profanity here from my old fraternity brother, which is all good. Let me see. Steve Jobs didn't give his kids iPads, someone said. Yeah, true. A lot of people in Silicon Valley really restrict the use of these devices, and I think it's just smart. And if you're a parent that doesn't know how to do it, Simon Sinek suggested changing the Wi-Fi password so they can only have it from like 1 hour a night. So again, I think that's a great idea. At the same time, I remember when I was a kid, man, I love that TV. I love the A-Team. That's what I used to watch. I used to watch Dukes of Hazzard, the original show, before they made a movie out of it. I watched the A-Team, the original one with Mr. T, and like these shows shaped my existence. So I do respect television as well. Anyways, all right, cool. Going back to a couple questions here, and then we'll wrap up. I just want to talk about parenting in general. You know, for me, I'm lucky because I was fortunate enough to parent Gabby from like 7 or 8 years old up till now at 12. So I kind of had this feeling of being a father now, but not of a newborn. So I don't feel like I'm as cold to this situation. But parenting is a very sobering experience because you get to see kind of what you are. And kids also ask you these great questions. And then finally, they don't do what you say, they do what you do. So they're constantly watching what you do. And if you're not congruent with what you're saying, like they're way over it. They also ask you questions like, Gabby asked me questions like, well, Brian, what's a drug and what's a medicine? She asked me that question one time. And I'm like, well, a drug is something that's prescription, that's for diseases. She's like, well, and what's alcohol? Is that a drug? And I'm like, well, I guess it is. And she's like, well, why do people drink it? And it's like, well, then why is some other drug illegal? And you find yourself trying to explain things to children, and you actually find out about your own self and your own society. So I've been learning. It's a learning process. It's Daniel Craig, the current James Bond, said it's the hardest job you'll ever do, but the most rewarding one, and I think that's true, and it really is a reflection of who you are, and that's why it's so hard to do so many times, because when you're failing as a parent, it really is an explanation on you. And I'm no ace at parenting, but I try, and I love Gabby very, very much, and I'm just honored to be your father. And I kind of go a little bit with the Dan Pena perspective, and Dan Pena said this. He said, I don't want my kids to love me. He said, 20 years after I'm dead, I want them to respect me. That's his only job as a parent. At least that's what he says. And I think there's something beautiful there, because I think a lot of times parents get caught up with this, I want my children to love me. Some parents want to be friends with their kids, but I think sometimes you have a job to do. And I tell Gabby all the time, I'm like, I have a job until you're 18 to produce a human adult in this world that is responsible, that is self-reliant, that is someone I can be proud of, that's going to contribute to our society. And that's it. That's my mandate. My job is not for you really to love me. My job is for not you to be my friend. And if we have to do this the hard way, we're going to do this the hard way. So like on that perspective, I agree with Dan. You know, you want to have an outcome. And if they can respect you 20 years after you're dead, it means you almost have a higher purpose than your own then your own feedback loop into your own dopamine levels. You're producing a human that's going to exist much longer than after you have. You almost have like a mission statement. So I think that's one of the good things Dan says, because he doesn't always say just horrible things and things about Trump. He says other things as well. Anyways, I'm curious what you guys think about Dan's suggestions for how to parent. All right, a couple more questions here, and then we're running out of time. I'm going to Facebook for this last one. One other question from Instagram, and I just touched on this. Sorentav said, is it true that the largest part of taking care of a child is taking good care of yourself? Amen to you, sister. I think I referenced this earlier. If I had had a child at 28 or 29, like, I don't even know how that could have happened, because I really could barely take care of myself. So, but at the same point, maybe I would have stepped my game up. I'm not sure. But I think it is important to take care of yourself. I think that's the most important job of doing anything. You have to love yourself. You have to have taken care of yourself. You have to feed yourself. You have to have a physical practice. All those things. You have to sleep. All those things have to happen in order for you to give value for other people in your life, including your kids, your loved ones, your team, your work, anyone. So you got to take care of you first. You got to love yourself. That's super important, and I'm a big fan of that, and I think everybody should do that first and then contribute. So yeah, I plan on continuing to take care of myself, including sleeping, baby. I'm going to sleep. I'm going to be the first new father that's ever slept 7 hours a day. Watch me. So we'll see. And I don't know if I'll be vlogging about this or if the baby will be on camera. We'll see. Haven't made any decisions. I've been vlogging less, quite honestly. I try to cherish my moments for what they are, and pulling out a camera sometimes quite spoils the moment. But we do some here and there, but I don't find the need to record everything cool that happens in my life and post it for you guys. Maybe that'll change in the future, but I think there's something bad that happens when you vlog all the time. But that's just from my perspective. Maybe I'll change up that in the future. So, all right, cool. Going back to Facebook Live for a couple final ones. Let's see here. We have Marina Afansayeva, not my Mariana, of course. She says, how do you teach your children the right life values? It's a great question. I think it all really comes from who you are, and I think my values were taught by my grandparents, who taught my parents and taught me, and I guess you just have to pass on all the good stuff. But I'm big on respect. I really think everyone should treat everyone else with respect and personal courtesy, and respect your elders and all of that space. I think you can, defeat a man without dishonoring him. I love competition. I love going for the throat, but I also love respect at the end of it. So that's a big thing. Do big things with your life. You're only here for a limited amount of time, so do big things. Honor the family name. You're a Rose, so I expect you to treat and carry yourself in a way that means something to that. I don't want there to be too much pressure, but I want there to be something like we need to treat other people well and behave, and I think accomplish great things. You're only here in this life for so long. But other than that, I'd like to think that they get to do whatever the hell they want to do. I don't want them to take over London Real. I don't want them to go to MIT. They don't have to do any of that stuff. They don't have to go into banking. They don't have to move to America, although I do encourage university in America for all of my children, because I think it could be a good way of seeing things. But otherwise, I don't know. Those are some of the things that really spring to mind. So here we go. Going for one last piece here. Awesome. Loving Facebook Live, by the way. Thank you so much for tuning in here. Really appreciate it. We do this every week at 7 p.m. British Standard Time. If you want to log in and ask questions and all that good stuff, I ask the first questions from Academy members, and that's in our private secret Facebook group. So if you want to jump in there, please do. And if not, I'm just going here. Let me just see. Family members, brothers, family, all this stuff about kids. Let me see. It took me 20 minutes to have babies. Wow, here. This is great stuff. Okay, this is all good. All right, I'm just going to end on just one final thought. Family is a weird thing for me. I grew up, my parents were divorced when I was 7. I have a brother and sister that I'm just not that close to, but I'm getting closer to as I get older. We never really had like the solid family unit, so I don't know what mine's going to be like. I've got a beautiful 12-year-old daughter. Some call her a stepdaughter. That's up to them. And I'm going to have this 0-year-old boy here. But I look forward to having a family that really gels together and that gets close and is a really important unit. And I'm really close to my parents right now, and I think that's super important. And again, they raised me in this kind of you're going to respect me when I'm dead kind of way. And my mom was just really, really harsh on me. At the time, I didn't really get what that was all about, but that was her way of showing me that someone loved me. And now I get it. It took me 35 years, but now I get it, Mom, what you were doing. So I expect a good amount of discipline in my house, and I'm sure they're not going to like that sometimes, but I'm getting older and softer in my ways, so I'm sure that'll happen. I look forward to this young man in my life. He's probably going to watch this one day and say, Dad, you looked really young back then. So that's probably what's happening. So again, it's about the journey. I'm so honored that I have the privilege as a human of experiencing this crazy thing that is part of the human experience. And I can't believe I never thought about not doing this. Like, what a stupid thing to do. And just like all my other experiences, like broadcasting or moving abroad or working in banking or drinking ayahuasca or raising a stepdaughter or all that other stuff, I'm so glad I get to do that. And for me, it's just a new way of learning, and I'm open to the experience and open to the new person I'm going to become. And the last thing I ever want to do is shut myself off to these other experiences. So I hope to do all these new things. I hope wonderful things. I know this boy's going to break my heart. He's going to make me angry. He's going to make me happy. All these crazy things that I did to my parents. At one point, there's going to be like, I don't even know if he's going to live just like me, but I'm just going to try to support him and love him through this whole process and learn and just, contribute something great to this whole collective that is the human race. I do think we're all connected in a big, serious way that even I forget about sometimes, and we all are one in this really weird way. And I feel responsible for other people's children and for bringing them up, and I feel responsible for other people and inspiring them, and I hope they feel responsible for my children and my family. And ultimately, there is this unwritten and unspoken piece that we're all really responsible for each other, and that's why we have empathy. And I think that's why people love to listen to London Real for 2 hours on end, because we inhabit someone else's soul, and that feels correct. And that's what we're doing here. We're listening here at London Real. So thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you so much for your questions on Facebook Live. I'm loving this whole interactive experience. Thanks for having me here on Real Talk. I promise we'll have Max Kaiser back shortly. Just saw him outside today on the streets. He wants to come back. He wanted to come in like 6 hours ago and broadcast. So we'll have him back. Again, I want to have more guests here in the studio as well. But until then, remember, it's about the journey. Be inspired by others. Get out of your comfort zone. Do something crazy today. Life is so short. It's going to be over before you think about it. So go out there and just do it to the maximum. And we'll see you next week. Thank you so much.